Right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Colleen.
Good morning, Taylor. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Got my coffee. You have your coffee?
I am doubling up today.
Same here. Same here. But I got my friend's mug, so we're doing good.
Life is good. Life is good.
Life is good.
I'm just boring today, so. But I definitely needed the extra caffeine this morning.
Yeah. Yep. Same. All right, well, it looks like we got a lot of people on so far. Don't want to hold up class waiting for everybody, but we will just go over a few little housekeeping things before we dive in. There are some handouts that are attached here in GoToWebinar. If you've never been on one of our webinars, you will see this little handout section. If you scroll down, you can download those to use after class. Covers a lot of the stuff that we talk about as a reference for you. We also have a questions section where you can go in and you can answer or ask any questions. One of us will be monitoring it while the other person is doing their part, answering those questions, or we will address it in class to everybody if it's something that, might be something worth sharing. If you could let us know that you can see us and hear us okay in the questions section, that would be great, or the chat, whatever works for you. I will also be adding some links in here for you, just to kind of give you an idea. There's a chat section. I can add some links for you. I will be adding a link for the YouTube channel, just to kind of give you a little idea.
Good morning, Hannah. Thanks for letting us know that you can see and hear us okay. And thank you, Michelle, for letting us know. Nothing worse than, you get 4 minutes or 5 minutes into a webinar and
nobody sees anything. So let me just share my screen real quick. Oh, I think everybody they can see us okay?
Yep, they can see and hear.
Okay. So I am going to just pop over to our YouTube channel. Are you seeing that, Colleen?
I see it.
Okay. So I'm going to put the link in the chat for you guys. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, this is where you can watch future episodes of Mixing It Up. You can also watch classes that we've done. We have little quick tip series that Debbie, our Director of Education, does, but this class will be recorded and will be added into a playlist where our listing entry and maintenance class right here, where you'll be able to see all of the classes that we've recorded and added. So if we're going over a lot of content for you and you want to reference this later, you'll be able to see the one that we did last week, but also this one will be on there for you. All right, Colleen, I'm going to stop sharing so that you can take over.
All right, sounds good.
Gotta close that.
I'm going to make myself a presenter here real quick, okay. And then we will go ahead and get started. And Taylor, can you see my screen okay?
I can, yep.
Awesome, all right. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. We're actually going to take you through some time-saving tips and techniques when you're putting in your listings, how you can put them in faster, more efficiently. We're going to show you some ways to make it easier to work with your office staff if they assist you in putting in listings. And basically, we're going to kind of start at the beginning. When Taylor and I kind of dreamed up this class, we thought, wouldn't it be great if we could show them from beginning to end how to add in new listings, how to not only add them in, but how to promote those listings easily out onto social media. For those of you who may not have met Taylor, she teaches an amazing photography class. She actually has a degree in photography, and she's going to show you some great things that you can do today to add in photos, captions, descriptions, promote those listings in a way that they're getting more eyes on them. So basically, we're going to take you kind of on a soup to nuts presentation. We're going to start at A, preparing for the listing, right through getting that listing in, and again, maybe even working with your office admin if they're the ones that are finalizing your listings. So where we're going to start today, and as Taylor mentioned, if you have any questions, just throw those in the questions box. She's going to be manning those while I speak. Then when she does her portion, I'm going to be manning them. So we'll walk you through whatever question that you have. But where we're going to start today is really where you would start if you got the call to go and list a home. So obviously you want to know as much information about the home as possible. You want to start doing your homework. And so where we're going to start today is we're going to start in the tax records section. A lot of people don't realize that you can actually access the tax records right from the listing ticket. Or, of course, you can go into Paragon where you see the tax icon and you can go in through that section if it's never been listed. But for me, when I'm actually taking a new listing, I like to try to find the previous listing ticket because I want to know as much about that home as possible, if it recently closed, maybe what it closed for, when the last time it sold was. So I'm going to simply log into Paragon. And I generally first go right up to the quick search and type in the address so that I can find that closed property or maybe if it's expired. But now I want to start doing my research on it. So how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms? Does it have maybe a delinquent water bill? Is there assessments maybe that are done on that are owed on the property? So really I like to start is starting in Paragon, trying to find if there's a closed record that I can base some information off of so I can put that listing in much quicker and I have all the detail I'm going to need to fill out my listing paperwork. So I've pulled up a property, a good example here. This was a property I closed not that long ago. The first thing I want to do is I like to check both Realist and BS&A. Now, a lot of people say, well, BS&A is really just the trusted record. That's the one you need the most. And yes, you're absolutely correct. BS&A is the trusted record. If there was ever a legal dispute, it's the one that the judge is going to look at because it's the trusted municipality record. Now, we do something a little different than any other MLS in the state. We use the live BS&A link. So that means, let's say you were going to have a closing tomorrow, and let's say there were some outstanding property taxes or an outstanding water bill that was due. Your clients can literally go into the city assessor's office. They can make that payment. When the city assessor updates the record, you see it live. Now, most MLSs in the state use a feed. That means it can take several days for that information to get updated. But we use the live BS&A service, and that means when they make that change, you're still able to go in and close the next day because you can see that that change has been made in the municipality record. I like to check both Realist and BS&A because sometimes you do find discrepancies. So let me show you how to access the Realist record right from the listing ticket to make it easy. So when you're on the listing ticket, you're going to see these colorful little buttons, and these are just quick action links. The whole purpose of a quick action link is to take you into another program without having to log out of here, log in somewhere else, type in an address. These quick action links allow you to go directly from this site that you're on into another program for this specific address. So it saves you a tremendous amount of time of having to look it up. So if I want to see the Realist information for this property, I'm going to find the red icon. I'm going to click on it, and it's basically now going to open up that Realist record that personally, I actually save this and I include this in my CMA. If you're using Cloud CMA like I do, you can pull this record in with 2 clicks, and it's part of my CMA presentation. So it shows that seller I've really done my homework, and I have, got all the information about their property. The reason I like to pull Realist as well is that it will show you things like if the property has gone to sheriff's sale or in foreclosure. It'll show you if they've refied on the property. All of that is generally listed in Realist. So I'm going through, I can quickly see how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, I can see the tax information, I can see the assessment information. As I scroll down, I can see it's built on a basement, when it was built, the year built. I can see things like the above grade square footage. I can see how many stories the home is. So again, I'm going through all this information, but if we scroll down a little further, we can also see when the property was last listed. We can go into that sales history information to see, has it gone to share of sale? A lot of times you'll find that right here. If it's been refied, you'll generally find that. And then even mortgage information, what type of mortgage that they took out on that particular property. Now, the reason I like to do this is in this market, it's a lot nicer. We don't have to share so much bad news. But, in previous markets, we had to go in and we had to be prepared to tell them sometimes they were upside down in their home. And so this gives you a good idea of what they bought the property for, what financing they've done, and even if they've refied. So if you do need to tell them that they might be upside down, you kind of have that going into your listing appointment so you can be fully prepared. Now, the nice thing is we've just recently upgraded our Realist to include all 83 counties in the state of Michigan. That means even if you're listing up in the UP, or even if you're listing, way up north or grandma's cottage, you can actually see all of those detailed records. Okay, so that's the Realist side of it. But as I mentioned, the trusted record that you also want to check is the BS&A record. Now, I have to apologize. It kind of looks a little like a garbage can, and Brian still promises he's going to work on that. But the icon that you see where my mouse is right now, I apologize. I know it looks like a garbage can. It's supposed to be a government pillar. But unfortunately, when he took that long government pillar and he stuffed it on that little button, now kind of looks a little more like a garbage can than a government pillar. But really, the idea is when you click on that government pillar, it's going to take you into the BS&A record for this specific property. Now, one of the great things here is because you're a MiRealSource member, you actually get a lot of those fees waived. So that's something that we do exclusively at MiRealSource, so that when you go in, normally if you go in through BS&A, a lot of times those municipalities will charge a fee. They'll charge $1.50 or $2 for that property record. But the good news is when you use our BS&A link here, it takes you into the BS&A record and it sends MiRealSource the bill. So that's a member benefit you get in Macomb County, Genesee County, and any of the gross points. So instead of paying that $1.50 or $2 fee, actually I hear it just went up. Some places are now charging $3. Instead of you paying that fee, we pay that for you as a member benefit. So as you can see, I clicked that icon. Here's another little cheat when you're working on your listing, maybe working on your CMA. You can actually use the public photo that appears here. So let's say you are going on the listing appointment, you haven't had time to run over and get a front shot for the cover of your cloud CMA. I actually generally will use this photo. This is a public record photo. Now, let me be very clear. This is not like going into the MLS and stealing someone's photo. Don't do that. This is actually something that BS&A does. It's a public record. So you can actually go in, right-click on that photo, and do a save image as. Then what I generally do will make that my cover of my CMA. So it looks like I've done all the homework. I've got this beautiful shot of the front of their home. I've got all of the detail. And even with my BS&A record, I generally print this as a PDF and I will pull that into my cloud CMA report. So I have the Realist record. I have the BS&A record. And a lot of times, again, you'll find small discrepancies that you might want to ask the homeowner about. Maybe the square footage is different. I had one previously in Sterling Heights where the MLS record said it was 2 stories, but the BS&A record said it was 1 story. So obviously that's something I want to ask the homeowner. I pull up in front of the home in Sterling Heights. It's clearly 2 stories. Well, what happened is the gentleman owned a dormer company. He did dormers and sunrooms. He put a second level on, but he never pulled a permit, unfortunately. So the city only knew it as a 1-story residence. Obviously, that's going to be something we're going to want to address at the listing appointment. So anyway, it's a really good way to find out what questions you need to ask. Again, I pull this into my Cloud CMA report. As I scroll down, again, I'm seeing all of the sales history. I'm seeing it was a life estate at one point. I can see if it has gone into foreclosure. I'm seeing that square footage. And many municipalities now will include assessments and unpaid water bills too. I just had one where the water bill in Warren was $700 outstanding. Now that's certainly going to affect their bottom line. So that's something I want to fill out in my seller's net sheet, that they're going to need to bring that water bill, because water stays with the property. They're going to need to bring that current. So these are all great questions that we can bring up during our listing appointment. So of course, we've got our tax information, our building department information, and as I mentioned, many of the municipalities now, they will also include those outstanding water bills. So you can see that the water bill has been paid here. The plumbing assessments were paid in full, but all of that is recorded. So these are great things to start preparing to put your listing in. Okay, so now you've got your CMA information, right? We're starting to put together our CMA. I love Cloud CMA. I think it's really, really easy. And now I have enough information to really go in with a great presentation. But now let's say we gave our presentation. How do we basically take the information from paper to now a listing in the MLS without having to do a lot of extra work? So I'm a huge fan of Transaction Desk. Many people know that I teach most of the Transaction Desk classes for MiRealSource. And the idea is, once we have this information and we're preparing our listing paperwork, we want to do that easily. But now we want to take it from that paper process to making the listing in the MLS without rekeying a bunch of information. So let's do that next. So let's pretend for a moment you've got all of your information. I'm going to go into Paragon here. And now I want to take the great information from here, but I don't want to just basically pull all the data someone else put into the MLS, right? I can see it's been closed, but I want to take it right from the tax records. I want to take it from the trusted source where I know it's right. Not saying that this agent didn't do a great job. It happens to be me. So if it was wrong in this case, it would be my fault. But I want to make sure that I'm pulling from a trusted source where all that information is going to be correct. So of course, I'm going to go into my resources, which is my agent toolbox. This is where you find all of your agent tools. And I want to go into Transaction Desk because I basically now want to prepare all of my listing contracts, but I want to pull those from the trusted tax record. So let's go through that next. So the first thing I want to do is I go through resources, my agent toolbox, I go into Transaction Desk, and of course I want to start a brand new listing file. I want to fill out all my listing paperwork, but I don't want to enter all of that manually. I want to pull a lot of that in right from the municipality. So I'm going to go over here to add a new transaction. I'm going to click on that listing. And I like to name my listings the property address. A lot of people say, well, Colleen, I just name it Bob Smith. Well, the problem is if Bob Smith buys or sells more than one home with you, now you've kind of got to go through all those files to figure out which is the one you're actually looking for. So I'm going to do it a little different. I'm going to put in the listing address and then Bob Smith. Now I can find it by client name or I can find it by transaction address. If you're new to Transaction Desk, the best thing you or your broker can do is create those packages of forms. For instance, my brokerage already has my listing package all set up for me to use. I don't have to guess what forms are required for a listing. It just drops everything into place so it can autofill. The next key is the most important step, in my opinion, and that's you want to import the data. Now, if you are on the buy side, well, then of course you'd want to pull it in from the MLS because it's already listed, right? But how do you know that agent put everything in correctly? I would much rather pull from the tax records to make sure everything's going in accurately. So I'm going to import the data, but I'm going to import it from Realist, okay? Then the next thing is, when Brian built this, he was so excited to show it. Brian is if you don't know Brian, he's very, very smart. He writes code. I mean, he's a brilliant, he's our IT person. He's our chief technical officer. But when he built this, he said, well, now, Colleen, all you have to do is go in and put in your tax ID. And I said, Brian, we don't memorize tax IDs. We know addresses. So this is a lot of extra work for me to go look up a tax ID just to pull from the tax records. That's really not a time saver. So if you simply scroll over he put this magnifying glass here that allows you to simply click tax search, but there's a trick to this. So this is your first place you may want to take notes or, kind of keep in the back of your mind that when you're doing an import from the tax records, they're very exact. So you only want to fill out 3 fields of information. You want to fill out something at the top. You want to tell it obviously what county, because that's really important when you're trying to find tax records. The second field you want to fill out is the street number, only the street number, and then the route street name. So again, this is Wessel Drive, but I don't want to put in the drives or the places or the circles or courts or anything like that, because tax records are very exact. So less is best. I want to put in the county, I want to put in the street number and the route street name only. Once you do that, you can click Search Tax Data. It's going to pull up that property record. I can instantly see, yep, that's the address. Check it off, and I'm going to start my listing file from that information. Now, of course, it knows I'm going to be the listing agent, so I'm going to hit the Create button, and my listing paperwork is already starting to pull in all that information from that municipality record. So as you can see, it's now going to open up. It's going to bring me into a listing transaction. The auto population is already starting to flow, so I can see it's in the city of Sterling Heights. Here's my county. Here's when it was year built. Here's my tax ID. Here's the lengthy legal description. All of that stuff that you would have had to go and look up before now is automatically being imported for you. The nice thing too is the way that Transaction Desk works, it even pulls in the seller of record. So if it's a husband and wife who own the property, let's say, both of them would have been brought over into contacts, and it's smart enough to label them as the sellers so that below the signature line, it already pre-prints their name for you. And if you're using AuthentiSign, our signing program, it will even allow you to, instead of having to tag each form, it'll know that Donovan is going to be the seller, and it will even set up the signatures in the appropriate places for you. So there's a lot of benefit of pulling directly from those tax records, so you don't have to do more work on the listing paperwork side, and you don't have to do a lot of work on the signing side. It'll know exactly where those sellers are supposed to sign automatically for you. So as I jump through our information, the next important thing to know is if you are going to meet with that seller. And previously, when we were filling out our seller's disclosure statement, we obviously are sitting there. We usually slide that piece of paper in front of them. We tell them how important it is to fill it out truthfully and accurately. But of course, we, the agents, aren't ever filling that out. That's always filled out by the seller. And at least I say we shouldn't be filling that out. I know some agents do, but that's not a good policy. So obviously that is something the seller should be filling out on their own. And I like to send mine ahead. So Transaction Desk offers a way to send out your seller's disclosure so that it can be emailed out to your client and they can fill it out directly from their email. Again, this is kind of the only form I would do this with, but it allows them to fill it out in a very easy format. So if you're looking to speed up that listing process and you don't want to sit there while they fill out each and every checkbox and each and every field, you can actually send it ahead of your listing appointment. Now, the interesting thing about this is a lot of times when you're on a listing appointment, they won't realize that there's the not available column. So they'll start filling it out. Now you've got a bunch of cross-offs. They'll start filling it out and they're looking for their roof warranty to see if they have a, warranty that's still good. So it takes sometimes a little bit of time to fill this form out. And a lot of times I would have to come back the next day and pick it up. And of course, you don't want to be there all night while they're doing it. So keep in mind, when they're filling out this seller's disclosure statement, you can actually go up to File and Send, and you can send this via email in a nice, easy format for them to fill out. There is one quick trick though. Once you pick that you want to send the seller's disclosure statement to your buyer, or I'm sorry, to your seller, you are going to simply type in your seller's name. Let's say it's Sally Seller, or you could pull from your contacts. And we're going to put in Sally Seller's email address. And you could put a customized subject line in. You could put something like, looking forward to seeing you at our listing appointment tomorrow at 4. But this time we don't want to send it as a locked attachment, because normally most contracts you're sending as a locked PDF. But this time you want to send it as a live link, and you want to allow them to be able to fill it out. So you're just going to make sure that you've got send as link and allow editing of the forms. You can even put in an expiration date. So let's say I'm listing it tomorrow. I want to make sure that it's filled out by tomorrow. I can put that in as my expiration date. And then lastly, just hit send, and they're going to receive it in their email in a nice, easy to fill out format. When they hit save, it automatically comes back to you. So it makes it so much easier. All right, so I'm going to actually close out of this, and I'm going to show you your next big time saver. And that's really the majority of what we're here for, is how do you get that into the MLS quickly? How do you get all those data fields streamlined? And that really is using the data sheet. So I'm going to use our Marsha transaction here, because I started filling out the data sheet in this one. So I kind of want to just show you one that's a little bit more completed here. So I'm going to go into the MiRealSource data sheet. Oops, there we go, MiRealSource data sheet. And this is just like the data sheet that many of you fill out right now and you turn into your office admins. So, you know, we do a lot of surveys, and we know that some people like to put in their own listings. Like me, I have a little OCD. I kind of like to put in my own listings so it's exactly like I like it. But some people turn that data sheet over to their office admins, and their office admin puts in the information. So my previous brokerage, I did that. I would fill out my data sheet and I'd turn it over to the front desk. And unfortunately, I had a $70,000 piece of vacant land that went in at $700,000. And of course, that's a pretty, I was wondering why I wasn't getting any calls. That's a pretty big difference. But the reason is that your admins would have to take all this information that you have on paper. They would have to rekey in those hundreds of fields of information and features. And it's a lot of work, especially when you're trying to answer the phone or assist other agents. So what we did is we created a really efficient way to either send this directly to your admin, or it allows you to just push the information directly into Paragon. So let's take a look. Now I have this data sheet in all of my listing packets. My company has them in their listing packet. So I go through and I fill in, and as you can see, a lot of this is already auto-populated right from the tax information, but I go in and I fill in the additional pieces. Now, quite honestly, when I'm going on a listing appointment, there are some pieces I don't know yet. Like, I don't know what that final listing price is going to be. I know what I'm going to recommend to them, but really that seller has to okay that final listing price, right? So what I do is I fill out as much of the data sheet as I can ahead of my listing appointment. That way I can actually go through it with my seller. Then when we have those final missing pieces, like what that final price is going to be or what our expiration date is going to be, I fill in anything missing, and then I do my upload listing. And a lot of people don't even know this is here. So let me kind of show it to you where it is. Right up here at the top, there is kind of like a little box, and it's kind of telling you it's holding all the information for the listing. What I want to do now is I want to click upload listing, and basically what this is doing is it's sending all that information to Paragon for me. So let me take you kind of where it's going to end up. So under your listing section, there is where you can maintain your listings or maintain your partials. So really the goal is it's taking all the information that you've just filled into the data sheet, and it's now created a partial listing. When I click on partials, I can go in and I can see any partial that I've pushed over. So I'm going to look at Marsha, which we just did a moment ago here. I'm going to open up that particular listing. Now I can go in and I can fill out any additional details, like if there's a, let's say that there's something I forgot to fill in here, I can go through and I can add in anything additional. But I have to tell you, I really like the data sheet because I think it's a lot easier to read, and you can judge for yourself here. You can see it's blown up, very easy to add the information, and especially when it comes to the features. You can see, let me jump over to the features section here. Features to me are so much easier to add in this nice, easy, fillable format and then push them over to Paragon. If I go into the feature section within Paragon, you can see I have to open each one of these. I have to go in, add all of the information. It takes me a little bit longer when I decide to do it this way. So I personally like to just fill it all into the data sheet and then push everything over. Now I can go in, I can add in my pictures. I can add in, Taylor's going to show you how to do that. She's going to show you how to add great captions and descriptions. I can also add in my seller's disclosure and my lead-based paint. Now, one of the unique things that we've done with Paragon and Transaction Desk is if you take the time to add your seller's disclosures, or maybe you have a survey of the property, or maybe a perk test, if you take the time to add those documents right into your listing, they then carry over into when a buyer is getting ready to make an offer and the agent goes in and they're preparing their buy-side paperwork, it will automatically pull over your seller's disclosure and your lead-based paint into their transaction. That means they don't have to go into Paragon, find it, print it off, get their buyers to sign it, then go in and create the offer and get their buyers to sign that. It basically gives them a nice, smooth transition. It pulls everything in for them. So let's talk a little bit about how we would add those documents. So if I go to the document section over here to the left, so I've got my partial, I've pushed it in from my data sheet. Now, of course, what I want to do is I want to add in my disclosures, my lead-based paint disclosure. Again, good examples would be a seller's disclosure, a perk test, a survey. My friend Tom Lipinski just listed this really fancy property, and so he put in the feature sheet so that it's like a $2 million property. So he put in this beautiful feature sheet that told all about the home, things that they may not have known. But remember, all of those carry over to the buy-side agent, and they can easily now send them to their clients. So it just makes it a little more convenient. So when I'm ready to add my outside documents or my associated documents to this property, I'm simply going to click on the Add New, and I'm going to find on my computer where that seller's disclosure or lead-based paint is. So if I go into my trailside property here, and I'm looking for, here's my lead-based paint disclosure, I'm just going to double click on that lead-based paint disclosure. I'm going to give it a description. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit save. You could do your lead-based paint and seller's disclosure together too. That's always convenient. And then I'm just going to save that to the listing. Now, of course, those important documents have been added. And when that buyer is ready to write an offer, the listing agent has access both in Paragon, and again, it even pulls it over into their transaction desk file for them so that the buyer can sign everything very conveniently with just a couple clicks. All right. So if you are an agent that is putting in their own listing. So for me, again, I have a little OCD. I kind of like to do it myself. So I simply click this upload listing button, sends it over to Paragon. Now I can go and add my associated docs, my photos, hit save, and my listing is live. Now keep in mind, when you click this upload listing button, it basically creates that partial for 180 days. So let's say that your seller decides they're not really ready to list just yet. Remember, it stays in there for 180 days. When they are ready to list, you can go ahead, put the appropriate listing date in, hit save, and now that listing is live. So keep in mind, there's one more step. And the reason we have that one more step, the reason that we don't just allow you to click the upload button and then it's immediate, is that we want you to go in and add those photos first. And the reason I say that is many people, when you just immediately upload that listing, If there are no photos, it shows up on all those IDX sites with no photos, which is horrible, by the way, because we know that the average buyer, if there's no photos, they generally go on to the next home. So if you are using, let's say, the RealComp portal, or you're using the Collaboration Center, if you're using those tools, it's immediately generally going to those buyers. So the problem is it's now gone out to them with no photos. So you always want to make sure, and that's why we have you push the data over. We want to make sure you are adding those photos first before you are saving the listing and making it live. A lot of other people don't know too, places like Zillow, Realtor.com, they use a feed. And with high resolution photos, which Taylor's going to talk about here in just a few minutes, high resolution photos are very large, and it slows things down when you're grabbing, because remember, you can add 99 photos into the MLS. So in fact, if you've got 50 photos in there and they're beautiful high res shots, it's expensive for companies to pull those over, like Zillow, like Realtor.com and others. It takes a lot of bandwidth and it slows things down. And so a lot of those places only pull photos every 24 to 48 hours. That means it could be a whole 48 hours before your photos actually join up with your listing. Imagine getting that call from that angry seller who says, hey, Colleen, why is there no photos? You took photos. Why is there no photos on my listing? You want to make sure you've added those in first before you hit save. So when everything goes out immediately, they see the photos and you get more exposure to that listing. Okay. All right, so next, let's talk about if you are not using Transaction Desk. So I showed you the easy way to send out that seller's disclosure so your clients could fill it out in Transaction Desk. You can also do that data sheet upload. But if you're not using Transaction Desk, if your company is using, let's say, Dotloop or another system, and you just want to put the listing into Paragon easily, you can always go into Paragon under listings, and you can add your listing from the tax record here too. So again, this is only if you're not using Transaction Desk. I think it's much easier to use Transaction Desk and use that data sheet to upload the information. But if you'd like to just enter it directly into Paragon, you can go under the listings section, add in your listing. So I'm going to say I'm adding in a single family residential home. When you click on Add New Listing, there is a tax autofill button right up here at the top. Now remember, because we've upgraded our Realist, you can actually tax autofill from anywhere in Michigan. We have all 83 counties now. So you're going to actually click the tax autofill button, and you're just going to pick the county of the property that you're going to be listing. So I'm going to say it's in Macomb County. Now here again, tax records are very, very exact. So that same cheat applies here. You want to simply put in the house number and the root street name. So once I've got the house number and the root street name, I'm going to click on search. You don't want to put a lot of information in there because tax records are very, very exact. As you can see, I just put in the house number and the root street name. And now I've got the address and the information. I'm going to check off, yep, that's the one I want to start my listing from. I'm going to do the tax autofill option, and it's going to show me the information. It's going to start autofilling into my listing. If I have something like maybe I noticed that, you know what, I think the house was built after that. I'm not too sure that was correct. You can always deselect something, and it won't autofill that in for you. But in this case, everything looks correct to me. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to hit save, and I'm basically now auto-populating this listing. So if I go into our property information, I'm auto-filling all that information directly into Paragon for me. All right, I think that's everything on my list I wanted to show you. So again, using the tax records, if the property's never been listed before, you're going to start off at tax at the top. You can search Realist, you can search BS&A, or better yet, if that property has ever been listed before, find it in the power search up here at the top, and then use the BS&A link and the Realist link to start the process. From there, you can push information directly over into Transaction Desk, fill out that data sheet, and then push that information directly back into Paragon to create your listing quickly. Again, it will save that partial for up to 180 days. And now Taylor is going to show you how to go in and take it to the next level. She's going to show you great ways to add your photos, captions and descriptions. She's going to show you great ways to market your listing on social media. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you. Okay, Taylor?
Okay. Do you want me to change it? I have it.
You know what? I'll make you the presenter right here. All right. You should have the presenter key now.
Yep. Okay. So is everybody seeing it? Seeing my desktop? Seeing Paragon?
I am not.
Oh, there it goes.
I am now.
Okay. Okay. So Colleen mentioned this a little bit. I just want to piggyback off of it because I'm going to go into managing the listing with an admin and the flow of data. It's really important to understand where that comes into play when it comes to making your listing live. So from A to Z, you've added your listing or the admin has added your listing in, and you want to go in and you need to do the final touches, or they need to go in and do the final touches where they're adding the photos and captions and descriptions, which I strongly recommend the agent adds those captions and descriptions unless you type them out and sent them to the admin. But we have this great feature called a partial function, partial feature, which essentially is a draft. So when you are saving your listing from the data sheet or manually added all that in or populated it from Realist, you can hit save, and then there's save, which will be live, which Colleen mentioned, then gets sent out to the collaboration center, the auto emails, the IDX sites, the syndication, and that is pulled as a new listing. And that gets, sent out immediately, and the feed is pulled quickly. Now, if you were to go in and add stuff later, so it's made live with just a primary photo, and then you go in later that day or the next day and add the remaining photos, that is seen as a media file update. And like Colleen talked about, pulling those high resolution photos, all these feeds, it doesn't quite work that way, as well as the notifications that buyers get. They get a new listing alert and they're all excited. If a media file update is made, it just now has more photos. They're not getting that, initial push where they see a new listing just hit the market. So what you want to do is you want to hit save as a partial, which I'll show you where that is. But when you go under listings, you'll be able to go under maintain partials. I believe it defaults to my listings, but I have, the option to go into other listings. But here's my sample listing that I just want to show you guys. So you go in, you have all the fields populated, and then you can have add and edit your photos. Now, when you do this, you can upload multiple photos at a time, which is really nice. It'll load in a panel for you. High resolution photos, we're actually upping them even more here in the second quarter, which is really nice. Right now it's 1280 by 960. It's going to be going up to 3000 by 2100, I believe, somewhere in that range. So they're going to be much sharper, much clearer, much fill the frame even more when you're looking on your browser or your smartphone. Be able to zoom in and see even more in detail, which is nice. So when those are uploaded, you can actually upload 99 at a time. I talk about this in my photos class. I don't want to go into too much detail about the photography and all of that, but what I will say is when you are putting your photos in, it is quality over quantity, but you do want to rearrange the photos after they're in in a nice format where it's an experience as if they're walking through the home. So from the entrance to a main space to the bedrooms and the bathrooms associated with that bedroom, and kind of just how they would experience that through a tour. Now, when you go in, it will upload those photos in the file number. So if the file number hypothetically is 0001, it'll go in that order. But a lot of times you're not going to do the 5 photos you took of the living room, you might do 1 or 2. So you can rearrange them after and kind of experience how that flow would look before you make it live. Then you can also hit this little red pen up here. This is where you can add a caption. This is where you can edit the photo and you can rearrange the orientation or crop the photo. Now, this comes in handy if you're doing your photos with your smartphone, because a lot of times when you're taking photos, the camera will change the orientation. And then if you were to send that to a drive where you're downloading the photos on your computer, that image might, upon download, might be upside down. So instead of having to go into a separate system to go in and edit that, you can just do it right here in Paragon, which is nice, as well as cropping. Sometimes things creep in the photos that you didn't notice and you're like, oh man, you can actually crop it right there in Paragon. You can also add captions and descriptions. Now, there's a lot of value to these captions and description. They get pulled in a lot of these feeds like I talk about. This is that first impression. This is the way that you're also selling the property and pointing out those highlights in the photos. So you have 25 characters in your label or caption, and then you have 255 in your description. So this is where you can just point out kind of that experience of living in the home or some of those highlighted features, which as their realtor, you have been to these homes and you're like, oh, that's nice. Those circle driveways, yes, those are awesome. Those are, a nice value to have, perfect for entertaining. Go ahead and add that into those descriptions. This is really unique to Paragon that you can go ahead and do that. It gets pulled into those feeds like I mentioned and displayed. It's shown in the gallery view in Paragon, which I'll show you. It also gets displayed in the single property website, which I will be showing you, which is really nice. So when you go in and you edit those photos upon entry, you can then hit save. I didn't do anything, so there's nothing for me to save right there. And then you can go in and you can just scroll through those photos in the gallery view and kind of get an idea of that experience. Proofread your descriptions if you would like. I've noticed looking at it from this view helps me when I'm proofreading them. Maybe it's the contrast or something, who knows. And you just kind of flow through these photos to make sure it makes sense in the order and the experience that a buyer would have. Now, I mentioned that I cover a lot of other details, but I do cover this in my photos class in greater detail. We have a spring photos class that I will be posting the links to if you are interested in registering for a part 1 and part 2 class where we go into photography, and I can dive even deeper into this for you guys. But for now, I also wanted to talk about some more of the listing entry piece. So when you go into promoting your listing, you have a lot of options here within some of these data fields, such as tours. So we have 4 data fields for you to add links, whether they're branded or unbranded. You have options to promote this property. Now, 4 may seem like a lot. Okay, I'm going to have 4 different videos to promote this property. Well, if you think about all the options that are out there, there's actually quite a bit. So I will go through some of the recommended photography companies that do different services that are available for you. But the one thing I do want to point out is there's branded and unbranded. So what does that mean? You hire or you do your own promotional video for this property. You can plug yourself in this video. So you can talk about at the beginning who you are, your brokerage, your experience, things like that before going into the property. You could add branding, like I said, the logo, things like that. Those will go into the branding field. So if you were to make your own where you're doing that, you can upload that into YouTube, and then you can share that onto this data field, and it'll go on all the stuff where you advertise. So your single property website, the advertising sites such as Trulia, Zillow, Realtor.com, things like that, HomeSnap, anything that's kind of plugging you as the agent with this property. Now there's just where it isn't listed unbranded. This is where you can add the unbranded, which is also very important to have because this is what gets displayed in the MLS. This is what gets displayed in the collaboration center that's getting sent out to other agents' buyers. IDX sites where it's going to the agent site. So you don't have to worry about other agents advertising themselves or branding themselves on your websites or your communications to your buyers because there is the option. So Colleen did a great job doing a couple just tours herself to give you an idea. And then I'm going to show you some other options with professional photography companies and what they do. So Colleen has a sample right here where she does a branded tour where she talks about herself, the property, and what she can easily do is share this link and add that right in to, this one was branded, right into this property. Now she also did an unbranded where she can now go in and she can take that one and she can simply add that one into the unbranded field. So just to give you a little teaser of what she did, to give you some inspiration and ideas, let's go in and share this video real quick.
On a tour of my new listing at 50839 Marshall Lane in beautiful downtown New Baltimore, just steps from Lake St. Clair. Let's go in and take a look. Stepping inside here, we have an entrance to the 1.5 car garage. We walk right into the living room. Does have a gas fireplace. And then just off to the left, we have a full first floor bathroom. It was like the day before we were all sheltering in place. Remember that, Taylor?
Yeah.
We're like showing people how to. Dining room just off.
And something to take away from that is, I think this is a really nice, this was something that we had to do at the time. If you wanted to get that property out there so people could get a better idea, they weren't, scheduling tours were not available right now and showings. So open houses, all of that was on hold. So this was something that Colleen did. But from that, I mean, there's been agents that do promotional videos, plugging themselves, promoting the lifestyle kind of video. But with that lockdown, I think there was something to be said with doing this and utilizing these not the captions and descriptions, the data fields, where you can add these promotional videos and then they display on that listing. And like I said, the system is intuitive enough to pull the correct field for where it needs to go to. If you are not going to do your own promotional videos and you just want to hire somebody else, great. There's lots of different options for you guys to utilize these data fields. On our website, we have a list of recommended photographers. You are not limited to using these ones by any means. These are just little relationships that I've built with these companies, their quality of work. They all offer unique services compared to each, different. Some of them are similar, but also there's something that is unique about each of these companies and what they offer. When you go to our website, you can go to more recommended photographers, and there's just a list of different companies for you of the services that they offer where you can get photography but also video links that you can add into these data fields, and they will do branded, they will do unbranded. So a few options for you are aerial video services. So Colleen has used this company several times, Great Lakes Aerial Video Services and Photography. They're local. All of these are local except for Planomatic. They are local as well, but they do cover, I believe, all of the Midwest. This couple that does the Great Lakes Aerial Video Services, they will give you a branded and unbranded. It's all aerial view of the property, and kind of they use their drones to go in. This is awesome for lakefront properties, lots of land, or just kind of showing a nice home in a cute downtown community. And they will give you 2 links that you can add in. Another company is a Matterport company. Box Brownie does some editing. They also do 3D tours, which are really cool. This one is Michigan Real Estate. Oh, I should mention Box Brownie is not local. They are a global company. We've had an episode on Mixing It Up where we had the marketing representative for Box Brownie on, where he talked about all the services and things like that. Floor plans, you can add floor plans into this to those link fields. Some more inspiration, some agent branding commercials for social media. Michigan Real Estate Photography does. They do lifestyle video tours. They also do the 3D Matterport virtual tours as well as next door photos. They do professional walkthroughs. All of these do still photography as well. But just to kind of go in and give you an idea of what that Matterport look is, you can go in, let's see, just showing this company because their website has a good overview of what this Matterport 3D technology is. So they'll give you a URL link that will be hosted, and they branded and unbranded. And what this looks like is you can get the floor plan, and as you can see, you can kind of see the house in like a dollhouse view, and then go into it and walk through the home with the arrows on your computer, or just clicking touch screen, whatever works for you. And this is a really nice feature to promote the property, and you have that option to add those fields in and promote yourself, promote the property, as well as get that out on all of the feeds that other agents use as well. Are there any questions, Colleen, on this?
So far, not. We had a few people join in late, so just a reminder, if you do have any questions, if you just click that orange arrow that should be over at the right side of your screen that opens up your go-to webinar panel. Oh my gosh, that's such a cute picture, Taylor. If you open that up, there is a questions panel, and you can actually type your questions in. I'll ask them out loud so Taylor can address them. Just a reminder, if you haven't taken Taylor's photo class, she knows more about photos than I could have ever imagined. I thought I took pretty good photos until I took Taylor's class, and then I realized I didn't. She showed you so many tips and tricks. You're bound to pick up some great information here too. But if you do have any questions, just type them in that questions box and we'll go ahead and address them.
Yep, and I also mentioned when Colleen takes back over to close, I will add those links to the spring class schedule as well, so you guys can register if you're interested. So I went over the upload, the captions, descriptions, rearranging the photos, as well as the promotional tours that you can use for video links. Options for you, ones where you can just do them yourselves. I know I would have loved this when I was looking for a home. We also have where you can add and edit your open houses and tours right here. Oh, there we go. I got a little click happy for a second. And then this is where you can go in and you can schedule those out. This will be a link that will be on the property for agents. They'll also see this in their market monitor when you set these up for the open houses. The tour looks very similar where you go in, you can add that tour, choose that date, add any comments that you need to about that. So now you're satisfied with your listing. Let me open it back up. There we go. So all your data fields are filled out. Your promotional links were added, photos, captions, and descriptions. It's ready to rock. But you want to maybe wait till tomorrow morning to do it, you can do that. Hit save as a partial, or you're ready to go. Or let's say that your admin did this and you want to have that final say before you make it live. That admin can just hit save as a partial, and then you can go in and you can do the overview of it, double check everything, save your listing, and then that's when it goes live. As Colleen mentioned, the data shares that we have, the IDX syndication, all the collaboration centers, auto emails, everything like that, it's pulled as a new listing, so it goes through really quickly. So it's really important to just use the partial function until you are ready to go. When you have your property, and I'm just going to pull up one that before I show you this property, kind of give you a little sneak peek, but second. All right. So once your listing is live, there are some options for you to promote your listing. We have all these quick action links, as Colleen mentioned, throughout all of the products that we use, but we have a few other things that you can use to promote that listing that's unique just to that agent. So you want to get out that listing on social media, you want to send it to somebody to then share that they think that they know somebody that might like the home that you just listed. You want to provide it to your seller so that they have access to their property information to send out if they would like. You have two options here. One is our single property website that we've custom designed for agents. And what's nice about this is, well, for one, it's a quick action link right here with this little house with the check mark. What that'll do is it'll open up a single property website using Lisa Harris. She's one of our trainers here. She has a cute little home that just went pending out in Clinton Township. And so once her listing was made live, a single property website is generated for that property, and she can go in and share this website on social media, all the places, all the ideas that I gave you guys. People can schedule showings right from there. But what's really nice about this website is there's no advertising from other agents. There's no advertising of other properties that are not Lisa's properties. And it also keeps your sold properties and your pending properties, which are really nice. So it looks like you have a lot of listings. It's not just the one. If you only have one right now, it'll keep your pendings and your solds for a while so that they can look back at those properties if they would like. Now, when you open up the photos, high resolution quality photos. Lisa did a great job with these pictures. I'm proud of her going through these. I was like, yes, good job, Lisa. Cute little house.
Took your photos class.
Yeah. Good quality, high resolution. What's nice is it has the lead capture function where they can reach out to her directly, email it. They can email this out. They can share it on all these platforms. Right here is where they can contact her directly. This will go right to the email that you have in Paragon, so they don't even have to copy and paste and go in. This will just be a form that will be sent right to Lisa's email. Okay, so now I'm ready to share this on social media. So I'm just going to take a little bit of Lisa's description and add some more to that for social media. When I hit that little quick action link with the Facebook symbol, I can then share this to my personal page, which I don't really recommend right away. I recommend sharing it to your business page. So you can go to share to a page you manage if you want. You can go through and you can do that. You can also share and then reshare it from your business page to your personal page. So you're hitting both, but you always want the main source of something that you're doing for commercial gain to be on a business page. So I can go in and I can write a little description. Now, you want it to be short and sweet, but you do want to say a little something. So Lisa did a great job here just highlighting some of the features of the home. She's got the primary photo. And I want to go in and I want to just add a little bit more to this. I'm going to say a little call to action at the end. So what I recommend doing is highlighting some features of the home, something that's maybe important to them, and inventory is low. Check out this new listing that just hit the market. This is the perfect home for whoever, and then you can do your call to action. So if you are interested, go ahead, go and schedule a showing right from the link, or give me a call at 555-555-5555. Like a movie in the 80s where they just started everything with the fives that doesn't exist. Have you noticed that, Colleen? I was watching Back to the Future, and the girl in the movie gives him her phone number, and it's the first, I think, like the first 6 digits all start with 6 or start with 5, and I just was like, oh, I do that in my class. I just thought it was funny. When I write my description, my call to action at the end, I can then share this on my Facebook page. So let me just kind of give you an idea. I do not want, this is not my property, so I do not want people reaching, commenting on it for me about information. So now I'm going to go to my Facebook page, refresh, and you will see how this single property website displays for any of my friends or followers seeing this on my page. Nice little paragraph. You don't want too much there that gets cut off. So just, probably, I would say 2 to 4 sentences is plenty.
Hey, Taylor, will you do me a favor when you have 1 second? Can you go back and just how you shared it from we just had one quick question, how you share. Okay, so there was one quick question that came in. How did you share it onto Facebook? So she just opened up that single property website, which you can get to under resources, under property links. And so you can actually, maybe you can show them where you started. So the follow this process, somebody asked a question, how did she so quickly share it on Facebook? So she's going to walk you through that again.
Yep. So you pull up your property, you have this little house with a check mark that will then open up that single property website for you. You can either hit this little Facebook icon, and if you are signed in on your computer, it will just automatically open up Facebook like it did for me. Or you would log right into your Facebook, and then it'll give you that modal window that then allows you to share to the page that you manage. So I just simply clicked this little Facebook icon or any of the other ones that I wanted to do. If I wanted to, I could also just copy and paste this link somewhere. If I wanted to send this or text this to somebody or email somebody, I can do that. Or you can hit this little email option, which then it will pop up the email that if you have the kind that's installed on your computer, it'll pull that. Or you can just copy and paste and it'll sign into your email and add this link if you wanted to email that property out. Does that answer your question?
She said, yep, got it. Thank you.
Cool. All right, good. Now, another option that you have too is HomeSnap. So HomeSnap also has a property website that you can use. Now, what's nice about HomeSnap is then they can create an account under you and communicate with you through the app. They might download the HomeSnap app. They might sign in and request an account through HomeSnap to be a client under your link that you shared. So if you want to also do that, what you can do is you can hit this little HomeSnap icon, and what that's going to do is open this little HomeSnap single property website. It'll have your information, your branding, if you're logged in. It looks exactly the same as if, whether I was logged in or not. I just don't have this, they don't have this pro tab. But you can go in and you can also share this. Oh, share this. Why is it? Why is it acting up for me? Hang on, let me refresh. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna copy and paste this link, and I can go in and I can add this to my Facebook page. Get a little, so it doesn't load the photo in the description, but, or the little modal window. But if I want to, I will publish it, and it'll show that little thumbnail shot, some information about the property, and then when they click on that image, it'll load that single property website for them. So they can reach out directly to you as the listing agent. They can request a showing, they can go in and do all of that right from the single property website. Also opens up a gallery view where they can go in and look at these property photos. And the main difference here is then they can request an account to do searching right underneath your pro account as an agent. That is a really nice lead capture function that then you can communicate. They can text about other properties, things like that. So it's up to you which one you want to use. If you really like the single property website, it still works very similar where they can reach out and they get that lead capture, and then you get them as a client perhaps, or you are able to, you know, sell this property however you want, however that kind of plays out. But you can then, let's say it is a lead capture, you can then always set them up in HomeSnap later or Collaboration Center, whatever works for them, whatever they choose. But the single property website is just really, you know, a good lead capture function, as well as the single property website for HomeSnap. So it's just your personal preference. Sometimes you might do both and see which one works best for you. So one thing that Colleen mentioned that I did not go into is under resources. So under resources is where you will see social media lead gen, and there's something labeled list track. Now list track's really nice for giving an idea of your hit count and analytics on your property. So it kind of gives you the hot spots, where most of the sites where your property is being viewed. So this is my account. I think this one was Lisa's. So this is Lisa's. Colleen talked about how you can go into that specific listing. So right here, you would see it's loading, but you'd see a spreadsheet view of all of her listings. So when you go in, you can actually change how far back the analytics go. So whether that's 30 days, it defaults to the 30 days, but you can do 7 days if you just want to see what's happening this week. You can do custom dates if you want to just see those analytics on your property. So that will be under, once again, resources, list track. And then you will be able to see all that activity, which is really nice. Kind of just something that's helpful for your sellers to know where their property is being seen. You'll have some numbers to show them, some graphs to show them if you want. You also will get an email that gives you these analytics. So if you just wanted to easily forward that on, there is a section for listings, and you can just send that analytic for that listing, which is nice. And I think that's all I got for my section, Colleen. You want me to hand it back off to you? Is there any questions that I need to cover or show again?
I don't think so. One just popped up. So there was one question that says, I do sometimes struggle with adding the photos to the listing. Okay. If you can give a little more detail, I'm sure Taylor could shed some more insight on maybe if there's a particular item that you're having difficulty with. I'm sure she can address that. So if you could give us just a little more detail, we can kind of even go further into it maybe. While you're doing that, while you're typing that in, I will jump over and we're almost done here. I know we're almost out of time, but I wanted to cover just the maintenance side. I get a lot of questions. Well, what if the listing is expired and I want to clone it? What about coming soon? Can you do that? So let's kind of just cover that real quick. So let me jump back over here. Taylor, can you see my screen?
I can, yep.
Okay, perfect.
One thing I do want to say about real quick, about maybe where that was going, having some issues, it could just be how to get the photos from your phone or from your computer and just the process of that. We do cover that in the photo class, some options for you there. But one thing I do recommend is like how you archive your photos, uploading those. It will give you some issues if your resolution is too small. If you are sending or emailing like a thumbnail or a small file to yourself to then upload, then it might give you some errors there. What is nice about the system though is like if you upload something that is too high, it actually resizes it to the resolution that we require. So that's really nice, but it can't, if it's too small, all it's going to do is just make it look all pixelated and blurry. So you just want to make sure that the resolution is proper. If that's possibly a problem that you've come across, sometimes it will load and it's just letting it load for a second. File types are another thing. So you want to do the JPEG or the PNG file type, depending on if you're using like a DSLR camera. One thing that a lot of people will maybe have their camera set to is something called RAW. RAW is going to be the highest quality photo. It does not take that format or a TIFF format. That could be another thing that maybe came up.
Oh, good information. All right, so lastly, just to kind of wrap up on the maintenance side of it, if you were looking to, let's say, clone a listing or edit a listing, of course, you can go to right under the More section. Now, of course, it has to be your listing. You can't really go in and change things on other people's listings. That makes sense, right? But if you go to that listing and you go to More, you do have the Maintain a Listing. This is, of course, where you can go in, you can make a change to that listing. You can, if it's a listing you want to clone, you will find that under your maintenance. So many things you can do right under there. One thing I did forget to mention, and one of the questions that came in was talking about admins. Remember how I said you can push from the data sheet and create that partial? I did want to clarify that when you create the partial, of course, that means you can go in and finish that partial on your own. So for instance, when I do that push from the data sheet that we talked about and I go into my partials, I of course can finish any of those. But your admins have a screen much like this one that shows all of the office partials as well. So an admin can not only see just yours, but any agent within the office. So if you have created a partial, and let's say your company policy is that your admins have to go in and proof it or make sure that, you know, there's no finable offenses, things like that, they can actually go to the office partials. They can open up the partial on your behalf. They can proof it, they could add your photos or whatever you allow them to do. It basically pushes it over to the admin. The admin can see it, and now they can go in and finish it and save it and make it live. So keep in mind, if you're just putting your listings in yourself, you can use that data sheet to do that push. But if your admins are the ones that are responsible for finishing up those listings, keep in mind that they have that ability right under partials for the office too. So if your company policy is that admins are the only ones allowed to make listings live, and there are some companies like that, then keep in mind you can push the data over to them. They don't have to rekey in all of those fields of information, and they can make it live on your behalf. Please also, we get a lot of questions about, well, I want to set the days back to 0. And in the olden days, I got to tell you, I've been licensed 23 years now. We used to put listings on the market that if it was kind of stale, we'd take them off for a day and put them back on. And we didn't have things like Zillow and Realtor.com that calculated cumulative days. So now if you want that 0 date, that 0 listing days, that means that the listing basically has to be off the market for a full 30 days. So let's say that your homeowner called and said, oh my gosh, we had a pipe burst. if you were to take the listing off for a full 30 days, when you put it back on day 31, then you would have those days on market reset to 0. So that's a common question. Keep in mind, there is also the coming soon rules. Not all boards allow coming soons, but coming soons can be, you can set a listing for a coming soon status, which then means that it can be up to 7 days. By the way, how coming soons work is the minute you start advertising it, meaning you put a sign on the lawn, a postcard goes out, a Facebook post, that's all considered advertising. So you have 24 hours to get it into the MLS at that point. It can be up for up to 7 days in that coming soon status. Of course, on day 8, what will happen is it will automatically turn into an active. But keep in mind, a lot of the questions we get is, well, it said it was coming soon, but it came on the market in 3 days. Well, that can happen. It's up to 7 days. That doesn't mean they have to do 7 days. That means it's up to. On day 8, it automatically turns in, day 8 at midnight, as a matter of fact, it automatically turns into an active listing. And of course, coming soon means that there are no showings on the property by either the listing agent or any other agent until it becomes an active listing. So you can see your broker, or you can actually look up the coming soon rules right through the MLS rules and regulations too. I think that is about all that I have. Remember that really when you're doing listing maintenance, you can actually find that listing and then go to the more section where you find that maintenance section. That, of course, gives you the ability to clone listings and make any changes. So I think that's all I had. Taylor, is there anything else before we close up?
No, not that I'm seeing. I just want to remind everybody that I did add the links into the chat for the Facebook page, but also the YouTube channel where you can subscribe and rewatch this, as well as see all of our other content. You will also have a link in there for my classes in the spring, the part 1 and part 2. And I added something else. What did I add? Oh, yeah, the list to the recommended photographers. So that will be in there. If you guys do want to add a little bit more information to your properties with the links to promotional videos, so that'll be available for you. And yeah, so Facebook, YouTube, classes, and recommended photographers are all there in your chat. So go ahead and click those and open them up so you have them before we end the class.
And I want you to know, Taylor and I did not both plan on wearing animal prints today. It just happened to be a coincidence.
I noticed that like halfway through the class. So you're a African leopard and I'm a snow leopard today. So
perfect.
It's funny. We were just feeling the leopard vibe today.
I think it was. Well, thank you everybody for coming. Remember, happy selling. Go list some properties because we need some inventory, and we hope you have a great day.
Bye. Thank you, everyone. I'll give you a few seconds just to open the links in the chat, and then we'll close out.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Taylor, for all your great insights. And
thanks, Colleen.
Don't forget to take Taylor's class. I tell you, I learned a ton. Man, it's funny. I see so many people emulating one of your famous bathroom shots in the MLS.
Famous
and you can
bathroom
really tell. Yeah, I call it the patented Taylor bathroom shot now. Yeah. It's so good. Everyone's starting to
Everybody dreads the bathroom shots, so I might as well make it an easy one for you, right?
Because, it's hard in those powder rooms, you can barely turn around. So every agent always just gets a front and center shot of the toilet, right? You don't think there's a toilet in there. But, now with your patented shot, you see so much more of the room and it looks so much bigger in those little bathrooms. I'm so glad you taught me and apparently many, many others because I see it all over now.
Yep, some more creative angles for you guys. So I hope to see some of these names that I'm looking at in the fall or the spring class.
All right.
Getting my seasons mixed up. I think I need.
We need more coffee and more sleep, I think.
Yeah. Spring. Yeah. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.